Hi everyone. On August 30th, the Holy Orthodox Church celebrates the memory of Fantinus, the Wonderworker. Now, Fantinus was born around the year 927 in Calabria, in Italy, near Sicily. His very pious parents wanted him to be dedicated to God from an early age, and so even at the extremely early age of 8, he was introduced to a venerable cave-dwelling monk named Elias. Now, Elias also had quite a reputation in the church and is someone who gave extraordinary consideration to Fantinus and his activities. He instructed the boy in letters. He showed him how to cook for the brethren, which Fantinus did for many years, until finally at the ripe old age of 13 he was tonsured a monk. And so Fantinus continued as the porter of the monastery again for many, many years. In fact, it was eventually to be that Fantinus himself would bring his entire family, his father, his mother, his 2 brothers, and his sister, into the monastic life. After so many years of struggling, of practicing extreme asceticism, of someone who, though he was a cook, lived only on vegetables and bread, and probably only 2 to 3 days a week at that, he became someone who was immersed in the hesychastic life. It was said that he would pray and pray and pray from hours and hours and hours, from dusk until dawn, and that someone, seeing him in this state, when he had finally stopped his prayer, asked him about it, and he said that it was simply inexpressible, the things that he had seen. In fact, his life tells us that, like St. Paul, he was carried up into the 3rd heaven, and he was given to see many, many things, including even the end result of those who had not repented, which greatly frightened him and led him to even more extreme asceticism and to even more fervent prayer. Well, though he had not seen his parents for many, many years, by the grace of God, he eventually did run into them again, and it was at this point that he convinced them to embark upon the monastic life as he had. And in fact, he tonsured his father and his 2 brothers into the holy schema, and served, strangely enough, as their spiritual director for many, many years. Now, at the time, Calabria was being threatened by Muslims, and indeed, Fantinus found out that this was going to happen because he had even predicted it many years before, that Calabria would fall to the Muslims. This did happen. In fact, the monastery that he was at for many, many years was razed to the ground, even during his lifetime. Now, our dear saint traveled for many, many years to different places, exploring different things, trying to find the right spot for his hesychastic activities, which were always thwarted because people found out about him and would follow him there, until finally an angel of the Lord appeared to him and told him that he should go to Greece to preach there, because many of the things that had been happening in regards to the Muslims and the surrounding area were because the Orthodox were not paying attention to their own faith. And so he arrived in Greece and preached in many places, and finally ended up in Thessaloniki, near the shrine of St. Demetrius, where he was able, for the last 8, 9, perhaps 10 years, to spend his life in some degree of peace before he finally reposed. What is interesting about his life is, because we often think of those engaged in very extreme ascetic practices and those that are very much involved in hesychastic prayer as being able to lead lives of quietness and solitude, and everything's just fine all around them. Well, in this case, that didn't happen. He went many places. He saw many troubling things. He predicted many troubling things, and was even slandered by those that were closest to him on several occasions. Yet, despite all of this turmoil in his life, he was able not only to maintain that inner quietness of soul, but to flourish, to achieve great spiritual heights, which eventually catapulted him into the very, very unique and special category of the saints, of those who had become absolutely still in their thoughts and absolutely engulfed in the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. If anything, it shows us that we, despite the temptations and travails that we all go through, also have that same possibility. For few of us will ever have to go through the things that he went through, and yet he was able to maintain his quietness and love for the Lord. If only we put forth even the smallest effort that he was able to do, then we too shall be thrust into that great grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, who desires all of us, those working hard in the world and those who are involved in the greatest ascetical prayer, the same reward. Bye-bye.